The lawyer's office smells like leather and old paper. I sit across from my older brother Heath, as Mr. Langston reads our father's will out loud. When he slides 2 envelopes across the polished desk, Heath grabs the thick one without even asking. He opens it and his mouth curves into that familiar smirk I've seen my whole life. Then he tosses a single rusty key toward me like I'm some kind of beggar on the street. A cabin in Elk Ridge? Seriously? I flew in from Chicago for this. He laughs hard, slapping the desk. The sound echoes in the quiet room. My fingers close around the cold metal key. My cheeks burn, but not from shame. Something hotter rises in my chest. He thinks he won. He thinks I got nothing while he got everything. But Heath doesn't know what he just handed me. He never does. My name is Oriana, and I've been erased my entire life. They always said Heath was the smart one, the future CEO, the golden child who could do no wrong. I was just sweet Oriana, the quiet one, the girl who smiled and didn't cause trouble. When our father got sick last year with cancer, guess who moved back home to take care of him? Guess who wiped blood off bathroom tiles at 3 a.m? Guess who spoon-fed him soup when his hand shook too hard to hold the spoon? Not Heath. He was always traveling for work, too busy closing deals in New York or Los Angeles. But Dad kept saying the same thing during those long nights. You'll understand everything after I'm gone, sweetheart. I didn't understand then. But when I opened my envelope, I found more than just a key. There was a handwritten letter folded inside. One line was underlined twice. The cabin holds the key. Don't sell it. Don't tell Heath. The cabin looks like nobody's touched it in 20 years. It sits deep in the pine forest, miles from the nearest town, creaking and sagging like an old man's shoulders. Inside, everything is covered in dust thick enough to write your name in. The air smells like mold and memories. A cold draft moves through the rooms, like a whisper from something that doesn't want to be forgotten. The fireplace is black with years of soot, but something makes me look closer at the mantel above it. I run my fingers along the wood until I find a loose panel. Behind it, there's a small safe built right into the wall. No digital code, just an old-fashioned keyhole. The inheritance key in my pocket suddenly feels heavier. My hands shake as I slide it into the lock. It turns with a click that sounds like a gunshot in the silent cabin. The next morning, I drive back to Mr. Langston's office without telling Heath. I ask him if the will reading covered everything Dad left behind. He shifts in his chair and removes his glasses slowly. Technically no, he finally says. There was a sealed appendix to the will, but Heath insisted it wasn't necessary to read it. He said you'd be too emotional to understand business matters anyway. My jaw tightens. Of course Heath said that. Mr. Langston studies my face for a long moment. Then he reaches into a drawer and pulls out a thick envelope with my name written in Dad's handwriting. This was meant for your eyes only, he says quietly. Your father was very specific about that. I should have insisted on reading it during the official meeting. I apologize. I take the envelope with trembling hands. The seal is still intact. Whatever's inside, Heath has no idea it exists. I open the envelope in my car with the doors locked. Inside isn't just a letter. It's a legal document, thick and official, filled with words like trust and contingency clause and mineral rights. My hands shake as I read. Dad didn't just leave me a cabin. He left me a trap designed specifically for Heath. The document details a trust that activates only if I meet 3 conditions. First, I must prove stewardship of the cabin for 90 days. Second, I must locate 3 hidden documents inside the cabin. Third, I cannot contest the original will or tell Heath about this appendix. If I do all 3 things, I unlock the real inheritance. A controlling share in Dad's timber company. The development rights to 400 acres Heath thinks belong to him. And mineral rights under the lake house Heath is currently trying to sell. Suddenly, my tiny inheritance is worth millions. And Heath has no idea. I need to understand how we got here. How Heath became the golden child while I became invisible. It started when I was 15 and he was 21. Heath was already wearing suits to family dinners, already correcting me when I talked about college plans. Dad only bought you that car because he pities you, he told me once in the driveway. You know that, right? Heath never yelled. He didn't need to. His weapon was dismissal, delivered with a smile that made you doubt yourself. He used guilt like an artist, framing my kindness as weakness and my compassion as incompetence. When I graduated college with honors, he said it was an easy degree. When I got promoted at work, he said the company probably needed diversity. Year after year, comment after comment, I grew smaller in my own mind. I started believing I wasn't capable of real decisions, that I needed Heath to explain the world to me. Until Dad got sick. Until I read that letter. Until I understood that Dad had been watching all along. Back at the cabin, I start searching. The first hiding spot takes me 3 hours to find. Behind a warped floorboard in what used to be Dad's study, I discover a manila folder sealed with red wax. My heart pounds as I break the seal. Inside is document 1, a notarized deed dated 6 months before Dad died. It shows he transferred mineral rights from underneath Heath's prized lake house to me. Heath bought that property 5 years ago with Dad's help. He's planning to renovate it this summer and flip it for twice what he paid. He's already found a buyer from New York. But according to this document, Heath doesn't own the ground under the house anymore. He owns the structure, but I own what's beneath it. Any major construction requires my permission. Permission I have no intention of giving. Not yet, anyway. I watch Heath's social media carefully over the next week. He posts constantly about his lake house renovation plans. Pictures of blueprints. Videos of the property. Captions about flipping real estate and building wealth. At Sunday brunch with our cousin Felicity, he brags loudly enough for the whole restaurant to hear. I'm renovating the lake house this summer. Already lined up a buyer from Manhattan. Guys paying cash sight unseen. I sip my coffee quietly, watching him perform. 2 days later, I send a certified letter to the county zoning office. It contains a copy of the mineral rights deed and a formal notice that I'm the legal owner of the subsurface property. Any construction permits for the lake house must have my written approval. Within a week, Heath's construction crew calls him. They can't start work. The permits are frozen. The buyer gets nervous about legal complications and backs out. Heath posts a furious rant online about corrupt land laws and government overreach. I don't comment. I just smile into my coffee. Finding document 2 takes longer. I spend entire afternoons at the cabin, tapping walls and checking floorboards. Finally, under a loose stair tread on the back porch, I find it. Document 2 is an insurance policy, but not the regular kind. It's a contingency agreement Dad set up with his attorney. The terms are simple but devastating. If I assume sole ownership of the cabin and do not contest the original will for 90 days, this policy activates. It transfers all of Heath's inheritance assets into a secondary trust that I control. The catch is timing. Heath has to make certain mistakes first. Specifically, he has to try selling or liquidating any inherited asset within 90 days of Dad's death. According to the document, doing so triggers a violation clause that nullifies his portion of the estate. I check the calendar. We're on day 37 since the will reading. Heath has 53 days to hang himself. And knowing my brother, he will. Heath calls and invites me to dinner at an expensive steakhouse downtown. I know this is a performance, but I agree to go. He orders for both of us without asking what I want. Wagyu steak, medium rare. Red wine I don't like. He's always done this, deciding what I need before I can speak. Must be hard, he says, leaning back in his chair with his wine glass, watching me run the company while you're stuck with that falling apart cabin. I just nod slowly. It is hard, I say quietly. He grins, satisfied. He thinks he's won again. He thinks I'm accepting my place. What Heath doesn't know is that I bought this restaurant 2 weeks ago through a silent partnership. The owner was desperate to sell, and I had just enough from selling some stocks Dad left me years ago. Every dollar Heath spends tonight goes into my pocket. The irony is delicious. Heath starts moving faster than I expected. He tries to sell off 3 land parcels Dad supposedly left him. Small properties up north that should be easy sales. But when he submits the paperwork, the title office flags every single one. The deeds are in limbo, tied up in the cabin trust I'm administering. They can't transfer until the 90-day period ends and all conditions are met. Heath tries to bluff his way through it. He calls the title company and threatens to sue. He claims there's been a mistake, that his inheritance is being blocked illegally. But the title officer is a woman named Patricia, who knew my father well. She stands firm. No sale until the trust is settled. The buyer backs out, frustrated by the delays. Heath's liquidity starts drying up fast. He'd been counting on that money to cover some debts I'm just learning about. I hear through Felicity that Heath is having cash flow problems. Apparently, he's been living beyond his means for years, keeping up appearances he can't afford. When I dig a little deeper, I discover he pawned the company Tesla Dad gave him. He needed a quick $10,000 to cover something urgent. I contact the company accountant, a woman named Rita who's worked there for 20 years. She always liked me, always treated me with respect when Heath dismissed me. I ask her carefully if she's noticed anything unusual in the company accounts. She hesitates, then sends me copies of statements from the last 6 months. Heath has been using corporate accounts to pay personal expenses, luxury hotels, designer clothes. Even his lake house down payment came partially from company funds. That's embezzlement, a clear breach of his fiduciary duty as acting CEO. And now it's documented, time-stamped, and saved in 3 different places. For one moment, sitting alone in the cabin with all this evidence spread across the table, I almost call him. Almost give him a warning. Maybe Heath doesn't deserve complete ruin. Maybe somewhere under all that arrogance is the brother I used to look up to when we were kids. I pull up his number on my phone. My thumb hovers over the call button. But then I remember Dad in the hospital bed, his voice weak and raspy. "Where's Heath?" he'd asked during the last week. "Why doesn't he visit?" I remember sitting there night after night, alone. I remember the Will reading, that cruel laugh that Rusty Key tossed at me like trash. I remember every dismissive comment, every time he made me feel small. I put my phone down. No mercy. Not anymore. Document 3 is the hardest to find. I spend 2 full days searching before I think to check behind the fireplace itself. The stones are loose near the bottom left corner. When I pull them away, there's a metal box embedded in the wall. Inside is the final document, and it's not a deed or policy. It's a personal letter from Dad, addressed to me in his shaky handwriting. "My dearest Oriana," it begins. "If you're reading this, you've been smart enough and patient enough to find all 3 pieces. I'm proud of you. I know this seems cruel, but it's the only way I could protect you from Heath. He's always been blind to his own weaknesses." The final document is attached. It's the trigger clause that was buried in my original will, in language Langston had to include by law. If Heath liquidates any inherited asset within 90 days, his entire portion is nullified and transfers to you. I suspect he's already done it by now. I love you both, but you're the one who stayed. You're the one who cared. You deserve everything. On day 86, I receive a phone call from the company's board of directors. They've called an emergency meeting and they want me to attend. I arrive at the corporate office downtown wearing my best suit, my heart pounding. The boardroom is full of serious faces. Mr. Patterson, the board chairman, sits at the head of the table. He slides a folder toward me. "We received this file anonymously last week," he says carefully. "It contains evidence of financial misconduct by Heath Rains, current acting CEO. Inside the folder are copies of everything Rita sent me, along with the trigger clause from Dad's will. I'd mailed it all anonymously 10 days ago. The board has been investigating quietly ever since." Mr. Patterson looks at me directly. "According to your father's will and the violations we've confirmed, you are now majority shareholder. Heath is suspended immediately pending legal review." The room spins. It's happening. It's actually happening. Heath shows up at my apartment that night. I see him through the peephole, sweating and disheveled. His tie is loose and his eyes are wild. I open the door but don't invite him in. "You sabotaged me," he says immediately. His voice shakes with rage. "You sent that file. You planned this whole thing." I stay calm, keeping my hand on the door. "I didn't sabotage you, Heath. You did that yourself when you stole from the company. When you tried to flip Dad's properties before the trust settled. When you pawned assets that weren't fully yours yet." He grabs the doorframe like he might push his way inside. "You think you're smarter than me now. Is that it? Sweet little Oriana suddenly thinks she's some kind of genius. I meet his eyes without flinching. No, Heath. I don't think I'm smarter than you now. I've always been smarter. I just let you believe otherwise. Then I close the door in his face and lock it. Heath tries to fight back with a lawsuit. He hires an expensive attorney and files paperwork claiming I manipulated Dad, that the will was signed under duress, that the trust documents are fraudulent. His lawyer argues that I coerced a sick man into changing his estate plan. For 3 weeks, I barely sleep. But then the court date arrives. Heath's attorney presents his case, full of emotion and accusations but light on actual evidence. My attorney, a sharp woman named Greta that Mr. Langston recommended, simply presents the facts. Every document is legal, properly notarized, and filed correctly. Dad was mentally competent when he signed everything, confirmed by 2 doctors. The trust provisions were his idea, clearly stated in his own handwriting. The judge dismisses Heath's lawsuit in less than 20 minutes. Mr. Rains, she says, your father had every right to structure his estate however he chose. Nothing here suggests fraud or coercion. Case dismissed. The press picks up the story immediately. Golden Boy brother loses fortune to quiet sister reads one headline. 2 weeks later, I get a notification from a downtown pawn shop. They send alerts to family members when certain high-value items come through their system. Someone is trying to sell a rare pocket watch. When I see the photo, my stomach drops. It's Dad's favorite watch, a vintage piece from his own father. It was supposed to stay in the family forever. The name on the pawn ticket is Heath Rains. He's so desperate for cash that he's selling family treasures. I buy the watch immediately, paying twice what the pawn shop offered him. Then I have it cleaned and restored. The next board meeting, I wear it on a chain like a necklace under my blazer. When I take off my jacket and Heath sees it resting against my collar, his face goes completely pale. He says nothing, just stares. Then he gets up and leaves the meeting early. I touch the watch gently. Dad would have wanted me to save it. Over the next 3 months, everything Heath built falls apart. The penthouse apartment downtown, foreclosed. He couldn't make the mortgage payments without company funds. The lake house up north, unsellable because of the mineral rights issue and now worth half what he paid because of the legal cloud on the title. The company car, repossessed when his suspension became permanent termination. Every asset he flaunted, every symbol of his success, turns to ash in his hands. Meanwhile, I sit in the cabin he mocked, drinking coffee in flannel shirts, watching the sun rise over pine trees. I've started renovating the place slowly. New windows, fixed roof, fresh paint. It's becoming beautiful. And it's mine. Completely, legally, undeniably mine. Just like everything else. Mr. Langston calls me to his office for one final matter. He initiates a forensic audit of all Dad's estate transactions from the past 5 years, standard procedure when there's been a dispute. But the audit finds more than anyone expected. Evidence of tax fraud in how Heath reported some property sales, inflated deductions, hidden income streams, the kind of things that trigger IRS investigations. Mr. Langston has no choice but to report it. Within weeks, federal auditors are reviewing Heath's tax returns going back 7 years. He disappears from social media completely. No more posts about luxury cars or expensive dinners. No more photos from vacation destinations. He's not a mogul anymore. He's not even a cautionary tale. He's just gone. And I realize I don't miss him at all. I miss the brother I thought I had. But that person never existed. One evening at the cabin, I stand in front of the old mirror in what used to be Dad's bedroom. I look at my reflection carefully. Same brown eyes, same small hands, same face I've always had. But something fundamental has changed. Not because I have money now, though that's part of it. Not because I won some battle against Heath. But because I finally understand something that took me 28 years to learn. Heath was never better than me. Never smarter. Never more capable. He was just louder. More willing to take credit for things he didn't do. More comfortable believing his own lies. And everyone, including me, believed the performance. But performances end. And when the curtain finally came down, there was nothing behind it except empty words and stolen valor. I'm done being quiet because quiet equals weak. I'm done shrinking because taking up space makes others uncomfortable. I deserve to be here. I earned this. Mr. Langston sends me one final sealed document a month later. It's the revocation clause, the ultimate failsafe Dad built into his will. The language is clear. If Heath ever tries to contest the estate settlement again, if he ever attempts to claim any portion of the assets transferred to me, he loses all remaining family rights, including any future inheritance from Mom's side of the family. It's a permanent door, and Dad gave me the only key. 2 weeks later, Heath tries one more time. He files a motion claiming new evidence of manipulation. It's desperate and baseless, but he files it anyway. The judge doesn't even schedule a hearing. She reviews the revocation clause and dismisses the motion with prejudice. That means Heath can never file again. Ever. The final door slams shut, so hard I hear it from 100 miles away. And I feel nothing except relief. The final court hearing happens on a cold Tuesday morning in November. Heath is forced by law to attend as the company is formally transferred into my name. All remaining shares, all voting rights, complete control. He sits in the back row wearing a wrinkled suit I don't recognize, probably borrowed. His hair needs cutting. His face looks older than it should. When the judge makes the ruling official, Heath stares at me from across the courtroom. I don't look back. This moment isn't about him anymore. It stopped being about him the moment I opened that letter in the lawyer's office. This is about Dad's love, expressed in the only way he knew how. Through strategy, through protection, through giving me the tools to save myself. When the hearing ends, I walk out without turning around. I don't know where Heath goes. I don't ask. Some chapters close without resolution, and that has to be enough. I spend the next 6 months renovating the cabin completely. New foundation, updated electrical, a kitchen that actually works. It becomes beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with care. But when it's finished, I don't keep it. I donate the property to a women's recovery program. They'll use it as a retreat center for daughters who've been made to feel less than. Women who've been dismissed, erased, or told they're not good enough. Women who need to remember they're capable of more than the world told them they could be. Because I finally understand what Dad was trying to teach me. The cabin was never the prize. The money was never the point. The real inheritance was learning my own worth. Understanding that I didn't need Heath's approval or anyone else's permission to take up space. I was always enough. I just needed to believe it myself. I live quietly now. Peacefully. I run the company with a team I trust. We've expanded into sustainable forestry and conservation. Work that matters. Work that helps. I don't post on social media. I don't gloat or brag, or need anyone to witness my success. But sometimes people ask what happened with Heath. Word gets around in small business circles. When they ask, I smile and say something simple. My brother mocked what I inherited. He laughed at the rusty key and the falling down cabin. He thought he'd won everything while I got nothing. I paused, sipping my coffee, but he didn't read the fine print. Didn't check the last page. Didn't realize Dad had been planning this for years. People lean in, waiting for the rest. The tiny inheritance? It was the lever that moved everything else. And by the time he figured that out, his name was already at the bottom, right where he belonged.